Hello, I'm Michael-Loui. I'm a professor of electrical and computer engineering at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Today we're going to continue our discussion of codes of ethics by looking at some parts of the Code of Ethics of the National Society of Professional Engineers, or NSPE, and the role of its Board of Ethical Review, or BER. The National Society of Professional Engineers serves licensed professional engineers. Its Code of Ethics is the oldest among all of the engineering codes of ethics, and it has evolved significantly since the 1940s. Since then, the provisions have been altered regarding competitive bidding, advertising, compensation for services, and professional development. Most recently, the Code has added clauses specifically to promote, quote, sustainable development to protect the environment for future generations. So a greater emphasis on sustainable development here. The NSPE is much more detailed than other codes of ethics, and it applies to holders of professional engineers licenses. It has provisions similar to the IEEE Code of Ethics, which is discussed in another video in this series, and some others that reflect the practice of licensed engineers, particularly consulting engineers. The Code of Ethics has 4 sections: preamble, which we will take a look at, some fundamental canons, which are very brief statements of principles, and then more detailed rules of practices and statements of professional obligations. In the preamble, there's again a very inspirational statement about engineers and engineering. Engineering is an important and learned profession. As members of this profession, engineers are expected to exhibit the highest standards of honesty and integrity. Engineering has a direct and vital impact on the quality of life for all people. Accordingly, the services provided by engineers require honesty, impartiality, fairness, and equity, and must be dedicated to the protection of the public health, safety, and welfare. Engineers must perform under a standard of professional behavior that adheres to the highest principles of ethical conduct. So, like other codes of ethics, the NSPE Code of Ethics highlights the engineer's obligation to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. In fact, it uses the word paramount, that an engineer should hold paramount the health, safety, and welfare of the public. So I'm going to show a few examples of rules, items from the Code of Ethics, and just to show how detailed and specific its guidance can be. Here's a provision about signatures. Engineers shall not affix their signatures to any plans or documents dealing with subject matter in which they lack competence, nor to any plan or document not prepared under the direction and control. One of the obligations and privileges of holders of professional engineers licenses, or PE licenses, is that they are the ones who are authorized to sign off on engineering drawings and plans. So it's very important that engineers affix their signatures and seals only to plans or documents with which they are familiar and for which they are competent to evaluate. Here's another provision of compensation. Engineers shall not accept compensation, financial or otherwise, from more than one party for services on the same project or for services pertaining to the same project unless the circumstances are fully disclosed and agreed to by all interested parties. This is to prevent double dipping for the same project, or one could also read this provision as prohibiting kickbacks or other under-the-table kinds of payments. In the professional obligations section, we find a provision on confidentiality. Engineers shall not disclose without consent confidential information concerning the business affairs or technical processes of any present or former client or employer or public body on which they serve. So unlike the IEEE Code, which is discussed in a different video in this series, the NSPE Code also addresses confidentiality and intellectual property. Notice also that there's an obligation not to divulge confidential information that was learned in the course of previous employment. So engineers have an obligation even to previous employers. Engineers, before undertaking work for others in connection with which the engineer may make improvements, plans, designs, inventions, or other records that may justify copyrights or patents, should enter into a positive agreement regarding ownership. So that, again, this covers intellectual property, specifically here, copyrights or patents, and there needs to be clear what the ownership rights are on any copyrightable or patentable material. The NSPE has a Board of Ethical Review that since 1958 has consisted of 7 experts who consider questions submitted by state societies or members and renders opinions on the ethical propriety of actions in those cases. So it issues consensus advisory opinions on cases submitted by members, and most of these cases come from private practice or independent consulting engineers. There are few cases in corporate contexts, such as conflicts with managers or potential whistleblowing. Most of the time, these are cases that arise in the practice of consulting engineering. The opinions that are rendered by the board are based on interpreting provisions of the NSPE Code of Ethics. The opinions are intended to be educational, but really just based on what the stories in the cases are. The board does not investigate the facts of the cases, and it does not have any legal power. But the idea is that the board, through its opinions, stimulates discussions of ethical issues and understanding of the Code of Ethics. You can find the NSPE Code of Ethics on the web at the NSPE website, and many cases of the Board of Ethical Review on the Murdo Center website at Texas Tech University.